and he's going to house it.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, sports betting, and NASCAR home. I am your host, Kyle Robert. You follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. Breaking down the Bank of America 400 at the Charlotte Roval Speedway. Brian Twining, how's it going?
I'm doing effing fantastic, man. After yet another week of like a longer shot hitting, we saw Bubba get his first win, albeit in a rain-shortened race. People could say whatever they want; they could poo-poo it, but he won the race. It's the second week in a row we had a comment dissing one of our selections, and it winds up hitting. So we're riding pretty there, just knowing that one of our outlandish calls is definitely going to have pie in our face coming up. So,
100%. But
I'm excited to get
the
into
fun
this
part,
last
right?
race
We got to
here.
talk about the ones that, like, even if it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, that's how you find value. It's how you find some unique ways to attack things. And, it wasn't a great week from a betting perspective. I had a couple, I had a couple group winners that I thought would do well and seemed to be doing well. And then obviously the rain shortened everything, kind of caused some issues. But I was, I think, 12th or 13th in a GPP and ended up having a nice little single entry hit. So not going to complain too much about that. Onward and upward we go. And let's take a look at the betting odds. And as we head to a road course, it's the usual names at the top. It's Chase Elliott, it's Kyle Larson, it's Martin Truex. Kyle Busch is actually an interesting value. Where's your head going in terms of the guys, say, AJ Allmendinger on up?
I mean, in these road courses this season, it's basically been Elliott or Larson. So I can definitely see the reason why their odds are the way that they are. And then Elliott sitting down there, and I think he's 7th in the playoff standings right now. He's definitely going to be pushing really hard to get to the front here. So I do like him in one of those like top 2 finishes that you can get on a couple offshores. But I think this is one of those kinds of races where you know who the players are, and you're not going to really get somebody that's that far down. Even like an AJ Allmendinger, it took some accidents and some luck to get to the top for him when he won over, I think it was Texas. So I'm looking more at those top 2 guys if I'm going to bet any outrights.
So I will say the William Byron number is a little interesting to me. I think it's a little higher than people expected, but he's a driver that has actually done pretty well at Charlotte. Ran really well, maybe not necessarily even been in the top 5, but has run really, really, really well. And as another driver who needs to survive in advance, a win would basically be the only way to do that. So that I think that number is interesting. You are saying, it's important to start near the front, give yourself a chance to win. There's 2 names that really jumped out to me that I thought were providing a ton of value this week.
Don't do it.
I'm Joey Logano, 20 to 1.
I knew it.
Ryan Blaney, 22 to 1.
I can get on board with Blaney here.
I think both those numbers are insane for where these drivers are starting. Blaney is starting 6th. Logano starting 3rd. I don't get it. Yeah, Logano starting 3rd. Like, it makes zero sense to me. Both of these drivers have done admirably at Roval courses, have had impressive performances, are consistently in the conversation for winning the race, starting near the front. There's so much going in their favor. And, obviously Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson and Martin Truex are the odds they are for a reason. But if you want to go the next tier of guys, I think Logano and Blaney both absolutely deserve to be in that conversation.
Yeah, I had a feeling you were going to talk about these guys, and I definitely glanced over Logano here, but it's just one of those things that for me I can't. it never seems to work out when I'm on board with him. So I love the guy, so I don't want to ruin his chances at this track. That said, I mean, he's one of the hottest drivers in these
Yeah.
playoffs. Worst finish so far in the last 5 races is 11th, and last week he finished 3rd at Dega. So he's riding hot. He's got a good shot here at 20-1, and then Blaney, who performed really well here last year, but he doesn't necessarily have the best road course success recently. So I think his number is a little bit too big, or the number is more indicative of his road course history of late. So I'd steer clear of that one. But I really think though that like Elliott, Truex, Larson, more so Elliott and Larson are going to be battling for the top spot all day again.
Yeah, I will say Christopher Bell always presents value at a race like this. He's very boom or bust. He either, basically has a chance to win the race, or things have gone horribly wrong. So, from a DFS perspective, we'll talk about him in a bit, but keep that in mind. But for an outright win, for a top 2 or top 3, even a top 5, he could be very interesting as somebody who, when he pops, he really pops, and obviously won the Daytona road course, and has had a few races where he's looked really good, and somebody that I've been kind of excited about for a good chunk of the season. So I wouldn't hate anybody who went back to that well. Beyond winners, beyond outrights, are there top 3s? Are there top 5s? Even if it's something like a Truex Larson top 3 parlay, like you could cobble some stuff together if you feel strongly. I'd worry about that just from, it's a short number to lay for such a tight window that I might get a little uncomfortable there. But I mean, where are you looking in terms of finishing position?
Yeah, this race has some pretty interesting lines, and there's some weird like difference in juice going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the names that really stood out to me was a Chase Briscoe, who he's minus 105 to top 10. He's starting, I think he's like 22nd or 23rd. And I mean, he's that strongly thought of in these road courses that he's going to move up that many places when he's basically been a mid-teens consistent runner, pretty much the entire season. So I think that number is really something that caught my eye. And then somebody who I was fairly interested in once again, that was a Ryan Preece at plus money. He's even money basically to top 20. He's done fairly well in road courses. He finishes right around that 20th mark. So getting an even number on that, I really like. And then going to the top of the board, I mean, you have Chase Elliott, who is minus 450 to finish top 5.
Yeah.
Like, you're basically betting him to win or nothing this week. And I think the money is actually on him. You can get Larson as a dog plus 120 over Elliott in a head to head. And I think that to me offers more value than even going anywhere near the top 3 market for either of these two guys.
Yeah. I think that's a great point. I did think it was interesting that both Alex Bowman and Kevin Harvick are both 25-1 to win the race. But in terms of finishing position, Bowman's is 8-1 instead of 8.5-1 to get top 3, and plus 340 instead of plus 370 to top 5. So I guess they expect Bowman to finish a little bit stronger, even though they don't expect really either of them to win the race. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, this is one of those places though where I think you can definitely see the difference in skill level on tracks like this, and that's why the odds are the way that they are, because there's just certain guys absolutely dominate at these tracks.
I'm looking at the head-to-heads. There's a couple interesting numbers. Christopher Bell minus 140 versus Allmendinger at plus 115. If you think Bell has a blow-up race instead of a perform really well race, that's some good value. And then William Byron, even money against Denny Hamlin. I know Hamlin's been incredible, and I know he's been running really well, but like if Hamlin's just like he's kind of solidified himself into the next round, so maybe he lays a little low this race. Maybe William Byron pushes it a little harder. I could see that working out, and then they paired up my two favorite guys, Joey Logano and Ryan
Of course.
Blaney. So I
Of course.
can't go to that. Well, I do like Ross Chastain at -105 versus Kurt Busch. I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, there really wasn't any of the driver matchups that I was extremely excited to bet this weekend, unlike other weeks. I do like the Allmendinger prop there. I mean, considering when you're looking at their outright odds, they're basically right there with each other in terms of top 10. And Allmendinger actually has lower odds or better odds to finish top 10 than Christopher Bell, which is telling me that they're expecting him to finish ahead of him. So getting him at plus money in that driver matchup is something that you could definitely exploit there.
Yeah, I think Ross Chastain versus Kurt Busch, and I think Matt DiBenedetto versus Tyler Reddick are two incredibly interesting head-to-heads that I think I may get on the card heading into the weekend. Let's shift our focus. Let's talk a little DraftKings. Been building some lineups this morning. There's a lot of interesting options, alternatives. Obviously the big names at the top with Larson, with Elliott, with Truex. They're all, in that kind of 10-1, 10-3, 10-7. They're all right there. I'll throw up my core, starting with Chase Elliott. It was either him or Larson for me.
Yeah.
And when I'm thinking about these lineups, I'm thinking more of a tournament style. What's going to give me the least amount of ownership, the best possible outcome. And as tempting as Larson is, and as how excited I am with him, Elliott is starting 2 spots closer. He is $400 cheaper, and I'm hoping, and I'll have to see kind of how, see if we can get some projected ownership. But I feel like Elliott could be the lower owned guy of the two. And with that in mind, I went that way. As I said, I like Ross Chastain. I think he's a very interesting option at Charlotte. Does a little bit better on road courses than maybe one would think. Is a little priced up this week at 9.3, but is starting 27th.
Yep.
A lot of opportunity to move through the pack, even if he doesn't get all the way to the front. Have a nice race. As I said, I think with tournaments in mind. So Christopher Bell, the ultimate boom bust guy. If he finishes well, he finishes in the top 5. If he doesn't, then he's going to be out of the race or in the back. So I like him at 8,400, and I'm going back to the Eric Jones well. I know I don't know if I'm just a glutton for punishment or what the deal is, but has had some recent good form at road courses. If we're looking at the names that we're looking at the top, we're going to have to save some money. We're going to have to find cheaper options. And at 6,400 for a guy that I think can move up and finish near that, top 10-ish range, I think he provides good value.
Yeah, I like the Christopher Bell and Eric Jones calls a lot. Christopher Bell is a guy who I was on last week. I've liked him, kind of been on his train the last few races, and I mean last week it paid off. He got a top 5. He's been running really well towards his back end of this season, and Eric Jones is just the dude who performs good everywhere. He's not spectacular, but he just seems, if he doesn't crash out, I mean, you're getting a low teens finish from him, and which is offering pretty good value for the cost of 65 to 7,000, which is basically his like weekly pricing. And so if he can just maintain that mid to low teens finishing spot, I think he definitely pays off.
Yeah, and he's I was just looking at it. He's plus 360 to top 10 this week. I think that's a number that I could, if you want to target him in the betting market as well, I think could make sense. At the Indy Road Course, started 28th, finished 7th. A lot of, Sonoma started 18th, finished 11th. Circuit of America started 29th, finished 16th. Daytona Road Course started 37th, finished 14th. So he has a run of, starting near the back and kind of finishing in a good spot. If I can get like a Sonoma performance where he's, 18 to 11, 17 to 10, 17 to 11, I think I'll be very happy with the results at 6,400.
Yeah, like I said, at that cost, I mean, you're basically, even if he crashes out halfway through, his negative may be offset by the big points you get from your
Right. It
dominator.
allows you to do so much more at the top. Let's take a look at
Yeah.
your core. And you are going with Allmendinger. He was
Yes,
somebody that I
sir.
was trying to figure out what to do with because he is starting 33rd, but he does come with the 11,200, the most expensive driver on the slate. Is it just a matter of he's just so good at these courses you have to jam him in?
Yeah, he's probably going to be, if not one of the most heavily owned guys in tournament plays, GPPs, all of them cash lineups, just because he has been so successful. And I'm going to say it again, Allmendinger has been the ringer. I mean, he won the last road course here. He's won the last 2 Xfinity races here at the Roval. And I apologize, I didn't mean to say that he won the last road course here. He won a road course this season. The last one, I believe that was at Texas. In the 3 of the 4 courses he's raced this year, 3 top 10s. I mean, dude is just a monster. 12 top 5s in the last 15 road course races in the Xfinity series. So this is the reason why Colleague calls him for these races. And starting 33rd, with his betting odds being what they are, he's expected to finish top 10. Like, those are huge placement points. We talked
He's
Elliott.
plus 180 to win on Saturday in the Xfinity race. So that tells you all you need to know about
There
his
you go.
run at this course.
Chase Elliott, again, he just absolutely dominates these road courses. He's won the last 2 Cup Series races here. He's finished in the top 5 in all but 1 road course on the Cup Series this season. And like I said, he's in need of a strong finish as he's sitting just above the cut line for the next round of the playoffs.
Is he the clear option for you over Larson, over Truex?
I think factoring in his need for a strong finish here, it offers a little bit more risk in terms of, because he will be a little bit more aggressive, but I think that makes him my guaranteed play.
Do you think that's going to be a lot of people's thoughts? Maybe I need to, if I'm thinking more tournament style and looking for an interesting pivot, that maybe he's actually not the option, and maybe I should go to Larson or Truex.
I mean, that is a possibility, is the fact that, I mean, you have to factor in the playoff standings at this point, and I do think that could lead to a higher ownership than a guy like Larson, who, I mean, he's also in danger of missing after a pretty bad.
Last week was really not great for his.
Yeah, exactly. So he needs to make up some ground here in this race as well. So I think they'll probably split the ownership between the two. So I wouldn't be too worried about which one is going to be higher. Moving on to Alex Bowman. I've been on him on numerous occasions in road courses. I think he's one of the most underappreciated guys on these types of tracks. I mean, prior to the last 2 finishes, he had never finished outside the top 14 in the 12 previous races. He's another guy who he needs to win this race in order to advance. So I'm taking a risk here that he's probably going to crash out in this one. But starting where he is in the 12th position, being a Hendrick car, being up there with Larson and Chase Elliott, I think you are going to see, to some degree, some teammates working together to get as many people from the same team into the next round. So that's why I like Bowman. And then
I think he's interesting, and I think the odds of kind of him versus we're talking about Kurt Busch, I think, or Kevin Harvick rather.
Yeah.
I think that speaks to his safety and to his expectations.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the NASCAR playoffs. He's currently 12th.
Yep.
But he's 14-1 to win the NASCAR Cup Series, ahead of guys like Ryan Blaney, who's in there, right behind Brad Keselowski, who's already in there. Christopher Bell, who's currently ahead of him, is 20-1. Kevin Harvick, who's ahead of Christopher Bell, is 16-1. I just think those odds are very interesting and kind of, based on what we expect from this race, I think is gonna kind of, obviously this is a make or break race, right? This is the final of this stage. So some of these drivers are really going to have to do some stuff, but I do think looking at things like the odds and kind of where they sit in the current standings really helps dictate kind of how you should think about this race specifically.
Yeah, I mean, a guy like Bowman, for instance, he's expected to finish top 10. He's got negative juice in this, -120. So I think that definitely plays into how he's thought of in terms of the betting world, and which makes me go more towards a better finish than that for DFS, just knowing what's on the line for him. And then moving on to Cole Custer, my cheapest guy, 5,700, starting 23rd. He's not a guy who's gonna blow the roof off of this place. He's not gonna finish inside the top 10 in all likelihood, but he finished 9th here last year. He's got a top 10s in both of the Xfinity races that he ran here. Average finish of 10th in the last 12 Xfinity road course races. So, I mean, at $5,700, if he can move up a few points and just don't crash out of this race, I'll take that at the back end of my roster, leaving open the possibility to add in a few mid-tier guys.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think finding some value at the back and then picking the top guys, the correct guys at the top are going to be the biggest differences for people winning the big chunk of change or not. Was there anybody else near the back? Because for me, Matt DiBenedetto was somebody that I was really considering. I didn't quite get there, but probably will make a few lineups. If you look at his last 3 road course races, started 7th, finished 10th at Road America, started 14th, finished 11th at Watkins Glen, started 15th, finished 5th at Indy. Obviously, is kind of still figuring out what his plan is for next year, and was running pretty well on Sunday until he wasn't, and obviously a solid restrictor plate racer, but I just he's somebody that was like, if I'm looking for opportunity, 7,900 starting 30th, I think there's potential value there for sure.
Yeah, there wasn't really anybody near the back of the field that I was excited about or think is going to be, surprising very much. One of the guys that I do like, I already mentioned him, and that's Chase Briscoe. I didn't put him in my core just because at 7,600 starting 22nd, there is the possibility that he doesn't do what the experts are expecting. But, when looking at the betting board, this is a guy who's favored to finish inside the top 10, starting 22nd again, which, factoring in both of those two things, playing in the DK, if you're going to get 12 placement points out of a guy who has won this race before 3 years ago in the Xfinity Series, I think that's a good value. So I'll be having him in a few lineups as well.
Is there any chance you're playing 2 of the Elliott, Truex, Larson combo?
I don't see why not. I mean, if both of those guys are near if they run 1 and 2 again, like we've seen in, pretty much every single road course this year, that's probably going to be the winning lineup.
I could totally see Elliott, Larson being 1, 2 in some order, and with both of them starting near the top 10, I think there's value there. And then
you're also getting enough placement differential to give you the value needed to spend up for such a high starting price.
Yeah. And especially if you feel really good about, I think in majority of outcomes, one of those 2 guys is going to win, the other guy will be right there. You're locking, you're not locking in the winner, but in theory could be, locking in who won, the greatest outcome. That, like, if there was a prop on, I'm there probably is, but Larson and Elliott or the field, my guess is Larson Elliott's like what, plus 230, 200, maybe.
Oh yeah, they have to be
even
pretty
lower than
highly
that.
favored. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's an interesting way to play it. And if you want to pivot off that, you could do Truex and Larson, or Truex and Elliott, or Truex and Willie Byron.
Here you go. So just playing around with lineups here, you could go with an all Hendrick lineup of Larson, Elliott, Bowman, Byron, who are all starting 8th through 12th. And if they all finish inside, the top 7, I mean, you're not getting a ton of placement points, but as long as you get the winner out of that crew, and then you're backfilling with Quinn Houff, and I'm pretty intrigued about this Scott Heckert, who in his 2 NASCAR Cup Series races this year has finished 28th and 26th, and at 5,900 starting 35th, I think there's a good shot he finishes inside the top 30. So, I mean, there is a distinct possibility that even playing an all Hendrick lineup, you could wind up cashing in GPPs.
Yeah. I mean, I did Elliott, Larson, like we talked about, and then I went Logano, Matt DiBenedetto, Eric Jones, and Cole Custer. Felt pretty good about that lineup. Feel pretty good about that lineup. All right, Brian. Any other DFS thoughts before we go on to our best bet?
I mean, I just know, just to go back to my boy Bubba, starting 15th, there is no chance in hell I think he should be
Him
in
and Stenhouse both.
any lineup this
when
week.
you see them down with the Scrubbalicious dudes,
yeah, no.
you know things aren't going well. So
exactly.
All right, Brian, it's that time. What is your best bet for the Roval Bank of America 400?
Man, this one was kind of tough looking at it, but I've picked him before earlier in the season. I'm going to pick him again. I'm getting a little risky. And that's going to be Alex Bowman, top 5, plus 340.
Woo! Yeah.
And the hope is the reverse jinx is on, and it's actually William Byron that finishes top 5 and advances somehow.
I'm gonna do a top 5 as well. I have my clicker on the top 3, but I'm gonna go top 5 just to save myself a little wiggle room, because if I go top 3, he'll undoubtedly get 4th, and then I'll be mad at myself. Joey Logano, top 5, plus 290.
That's a good number, I have to admit.
Starting near the front, I think he has a very legitimate chance to win. I think he is pretty safe into the next round. So if he can lock up that, top 5 finish, should move on very comfortably, set himself up for a potential end up in the final 4 and whatnot. So top 5, I think he has top 3. I think he has winning upside. So I will take the wiggle room and hope to cash that ticket come Sunday.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this race. It'll be interesting to see how I'm able to watch this, because it's literally going on during every single football game, which is kind of my other job. So, yeah. I mean, I for one was not disappointed to see Talladega postponed till Monday. So
I love that, especially as two people who are living that work from home lifestyle, at least on Mondays.
I would love another rain postponement. I mean,
I would as well. That being said, I will find a screen for the race to finagle it in for sure. With MLB playoffs, with NBA and hockey starting, with NASCAR playoffs going full bore, NFL, it's a great time to be a sports fan. It's hard to squeeze all this stuff in, but we're making it do, and it's been glorious. So
yes, it has.
That's Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. Make sure you're checking out our NFL betting show. We talk best bets over there as well. Some of our favorite player props, all that good stuff. My guess is if you're betting NASCAR, you're probably betting NFL too. So if you want to check that out, come over to that video. And we'll be back next week to dive into the round of 8 as the NASCAR playoffs keep rolling along. We'll talk to you guys next time.